So can you briefly introduce yourself and your educational background?
Hi, my name is Sujin, and I was born in Korea. I lived in Korea till I was 7. When it came to U.S., Washington D.C., lived there till I was 10. Went back to Korea, and then stayed there till I was 15, and then came back for high school education, and then I've been staying here since then.
So since you've been in both Korean education system and American education system, if you were to compare, like how would you compare like the two? And
Korean education system is very limited source of like everything and sort of everything, as in like there's less interactions with teachers. You just sit down, you have to study on your own. It's all by yourself. But here it's more like you get to interact with teachers. The teachers give you more support. For example, you have office hours, which they don't have in Korea, and just you just get more attention, which I feel like is really nice.
if you were to improve Korean classroom settings, how would you do that? Like,
Um, to improve current education system settings, I said that there was a limited source of supplies.
mm-hmm,
So since we just like use books and
mm-hmm,
like that's it, maybe like using media as in mostly you always use like media sorts of
mm-hmm,
video. So
mm-hmm.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Good. But so if you were to choose one, like among like listening, speaking, reading, and writing, which one was the most difficult, and like why?
I choose reading because I'm not used to reading books,
Mm-hmm.
American books, English books, and
Mm-hmm.
if you're when you get surrounded by like all those books just because of the English classes,
Mm-hmm.
it gets really hard and
Mm-hmm.
intense, and there's not really a set system to help.
So I assume over time you've gotten better in
Hmm.
reading, and what do you think was the most effective way that improved your reading skills?
I think knowing your vocabularies probably
Mm-hmm.
helped you the most because you have to understand the text in order to read
Mm-hmm.
the book,
Mm-hmm.
and you just have to constantly read a lot of books because it's not a skill that improves quickly. It takes time.
Can you briefly introduce yourself and your education background?
My name is Julie Reed. I attended elementary school and few months of middle school in Korea, and I went to middle school in Vancouver from 7th to 8th grade, and then I went to high school in Virginia, a boarding school from 9th to 12th grade, and then I came here.
So since you've been to both like Korean education system and American, how would you compare the like the Western education system versus like Korean education system?
I guess most students who have been in Korean educational system will feel that the way the Korean teachers teach is that they just like teach all the materials to you. They just like write everything on the board, and then you just have to copy it down, and that's about it. Like the memorization is basically all about the course, and instead of like instead of understanding and interacting.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's the major difference between the Korean and the American or Canadian education system, where a lot of, especially in my middle school, we had a lot of poster making or group projects. They're really into like arts and crafts and seeing like every student's individual like creativity
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. So I think that was a big difference, and also learning um, different cultures,
Mm-hmm.
especially like in Canada, because like French was also like a official
Prominent
language.
Mhm.
We were like really easily exposed to different culture at the same time.
So, from what you have just said, it sounds like you prefer the Western education system better. What do you think can be done to Korean education system to like improve?
I guess more interactions with the teachers would be like the essential problem to solve, because a lot of them are really intimidated by the teachers to even ask any question, even if they even have one.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess more interaction with the teacher or the instructor would be helpful.
So when you first moved to, I guess, Canada, what was the biggest challenge in terms of language, like going from Korean to English?
I guess reading was the most difficult one, because um, a lot of them are based on like the reading like text and stuff, whereas in Korea a lot of them are just based on like the prep book. So instead of reading like a full text, we are just given like in Korea you're just given like, oh, this is like the main passage of the book, and like basically touches on like a lot of books, whereas in America or Canada really focus on like one book really in detail. So I guess reading like a thorough book was a bit difficult for me, I guess.
So when you moved from Canada to America, did you ever take ESL class, or maybe even in Canada?
When I moved to my boarding school in Virginia, we were required to take 2 years of ESL because I was an international student. So I took it from 9th to 10th grade, yeah.
So how would you describe your ESL experience in terms of class, like how the class was structured and everything?
For my high school, my freshman year, we had ESL just for international students. So the class size was much smaller. So I guess it was helpful for us to receive help in that wise. We didn't take classes with other English-speaking students. So I don't know, I guess
there was a give and take.
Yeah, give and take, I think, that you do receive more careful attention from your ESL teacher, but at the same time, you feel kind of like discriminated the fact that you're not in the same English class as the other students.
So what would you say like in terms of like the instructor and the like class activities?
Well, I guess they do try to give more like grammatical attention, or they encourage more for you to like speak up, because I guess they assume that most international students, when they first come to like the United education system, they'll be more discouraged to speak up or stuff like that. So I guess their main purpose was to help us, but I don't know, I think it might have been more helpful if we could also take like just English, like regular English classes, so that we actually know like what the classes would be with others.
Briefly introduce yourself and your education background.
Hi, I'm Lily Kim. I'm a sophomore at Wellesley, and I went to elementary school and middle school in South Korea. And I came to America in 8th grade. I went to it's called the Hockaday School. It's a private boarding school in Texas.
Since you've been in both like Korean education system and American education system, how would you compare the classroom atmosphere of like Korean versus American classrooms?
I would say in America they encourage students to participate more in class, but in Korea teachers didn't like when students spoke out. They wanted students to be quiet and rather listen to their lectures and take notes. Also, when they had questions, they expected them to go have tutors or
after school tutoring system. What do you think we can do to improve Korean classroom settings?
I would say, well, the thing is I went to private boarding school, so it might be very different from public schools.
In terms of teacher-student ratio and stuff?
And in South Korea, there are 40 students per class. So that's different. But if they encourage students to participate more and have various class activities, I guess that could be helpful.
To work together? So when you first came to the U.S., like among the 4 skills being like reading, listening, speaking, and writing, which one was the most challenging and why?
Reading and writing. Reading, it just took me so long to read, and there were so many vocabs I had to look up, so it wouldn't like flow. So that was challenging. And writing, it still is challenging. I can communicate through my writings, but it's just hard to make it
look professional.
Yes.
So what do you think helped you improve in those areas?
I went to talk to my teacher, and she helped me she taught me how to learn the vocabs.
Was this like an English teacher?
She was my ESL teacher,
Oh.
and I attended ESL class for 1 year in 8th grade when I first arrived. So we would, she would comment on my essays, and I would look through them.
Give feedbacks.
Yes, and we can also brainstorm together and talk about like how the structures are supposed to be, and
so that helped you the most.
Yeah.
So since you mentioned your ESL class, how would you describe classroom like atmosphere and like setting structure?
There were about 10 people under one instructor, and she was a teacher there, but she was more like an ESL teacher. So she was involved with a lot of international students, organizations and stuff as well. And it was kind of just like a regular English class. So we read books and wrote essays.
But how was it different from like a regular English class?
It was different because we had vocab quizzes, and also we went through grammar.
More grammar
intensive.
Can you briefly introduce yourself and your education background?
I am Hyunjin Son, and I'm a sophomore at Wellesley. And I went to Korean school until 7th grade, and I moved to an international school in Korea when I was an 8th grader.
So since you were exposed to both like Korean and American classroom settings, how would you compare the two? And if you have a preference, like why?
I think Korean school that I went to provides the students with a very little room for creativity and other extracurricular activities other than academics. Whereas my international school, while emphasizing education, like my Korean school, they also left a room for us to build our other interests, like in sports.
Extracurricular activities?
Yeah. And also, I think my international school setting was more open for a discussion on different ideas, while my Korean school classroom setting only allows certain ideas and little participation from students.
So if you were to like change one thing about Korean education system, like to improve, what would be the one thing?
I would decrease the number of classes, because you usually don't have much choice for what kind of classes you can take. So and you usually have to take 7 to 8 classes per semester. So I would decrease the number of classes you have to take per semester and maybe go more in depth and then focus on discussion and like research on
other than just lecturing.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned, like the ways to improve Korean schools and stuff. So when you first moved from like Korean education system to U.S. system, what was the most challenging in terms of like 4 different skills, like reading, writing, listening, and speaking? Which one was the most challenging for you?
Writing probably was the most challenging for me, because there are different ways to express the same idea. And then when I first moved, I was expressing my ideas, but not in the most articulate way. So that was most challenging.
So in terms of like overcoming that challenge, what helped you the most?
Just writing a lot for different classes. I guess practices helped me improve my writing skills, and then like helped me just organize my thoughts on the paper more easily and then more clearly.
Did you have any like writing teacher, or did you take any writing program that helped you like?
No, but my teachers were very like supportive of the writing assignments or any writings that we had to do. So
in different subjects.
Yeah, so they were readily available. So I think they helped a lot.
Okay, thank you.